Recently, the Rockpit got to speak to Mark Lizotte, aka Diesel, about his new album, Sunset Suburbia, and the full transcript is up on the site at the moment, but we've grabbed a few snippets of audio from that interview for you to hear, and we discussed how he created and wrote the album, and it starts off with me asking him how good it finally felt to get the album out there for all to hear.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've actually even listened to it, but yeah, I am. I was happy, like around March, I think, was when I started finishing the last bits and pieces on it, and it's been a lot of distractions in that, it was sitting with me, rather nicely. I was pretty happy, yeah.
Well, it's been a lovely different way of releasing it with the EPs as well, which is fantastic, because that's so much new material.
Yeah, kind of a slow release.
Yeah, like drip feeding the fans, which is great.
Yeah, it's like drip feeding, exactly. It also gave me more time to kind of germinate more ideas and stuff, instead of, signing on to like make an album straight away. Okay, the album always feels like such an epic sort of, unless you, of course, make like a live record or records where I've done it in like 2 weeks, bang, that sort of thing. But an album of new material, I was like, oh God, okay, can I just start with some EPs first?
Breaking yourself back into it gently.
Well, yeah, exactly. Lots of ideas and stuff, but I didn't have any demos. I've gotten really, I think because, you can record something with your phone so easily now, and I just really the process used to be, an artist had a home studio and you'd use that to make a demo, and then you'd sort of, at some point, the record company would give you this budget, and then you'd go and make the record, But now it's because it's like every artist has a studio and has, I've collected skills from, the late 80s working with producers and engineers that I've got 30 years of a skill set now. I'm a producer and engineer myself, so yeah, the idea of making a demo just doesn't it's like what? Although when people come to me with their stuff, it's like I encourage them to make the roughest demo possible. Don't give me anything that sounds like a record. Just give me the song really raw. It's always a good thing. But I find most people sort of do that now. They very rarely kind of you don't hear those kind of ad hoc demos like you used to hear with awful drum machine and some kind of really slap down parts that are okay.
Yeah. They're the demos that are worth a fortune in later years when they get uncovered.
Oh, totally. There's a real demo-itis thing too, which is always you can avoid that by just not making a demo, just make the record, because sometimes, inadvertently, you go to make a shitty demo and it ends up having this vibe, and then late people just end up chasing their tail and no, it just doesn't, I don't know, there's something on the demo that, it's we'll just use the fucking demo. And in some cases, that's what they've ended up doing. Coldplay's first album, for instance, that's all the demos, with some enhancements and stuff that, they did a few bits and bobs. But they actually made that whole record properly, parentheses, and they went, nah, we hate this, went back to the demos.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, that was a classic case of do it properly, and then everyone just agreed that it was you know what, the demos, we had it already. They were a little bit more lo-fi and stuff, but they just had the vibe.
Did you get impatient? Because originally you were saying there was going to be 3 EPs and then an album, and then suddenly we got 2 EPs and an album.
Yeah, the third EP became just part of the album because we realised that it was going to just start competing with itself, and then we looked at the timeline and thought, no, that doesn't make sense, Then add to that the COVID carbuncle, and it just kind of was you know what, let's just, so I've got some tracks that are in the vault now that, I'll probably use as extras, whatever, at some point, but it just seems it's you know what, just leave it at 2 and just focus on the album now.
There's plenty of different styles through all the EPs and the album. I mean, I was listening again last night, and In Reverse had a bit of a Don Henley kind of Eagles kind of feel to that.
Yeah, look, I mean, geez, he's one of the most amazing songwriters ever when you say that name. It's very, it's kind of got this melancholy thing, which probably I would imagine that you're hearing. It reminds you of. He manages to get this amazing melancholy sort of in his melodies, and I was kind of going for sort of what I was going for there. People have said war on drugs. They've said all kinds of things. Echo on the Buddy Man, someone said. Okay, it definitely has it's really driven by the bass. The guitar just kind of floats on top. It's a real bass and drums driven song, which is cool. And then I sort of wrote it on bass, so it makes sense.
Yeah. So with all this material, how many songs would that have taken to put the 2 EPs and the album together? You must have obviously written a wad of material.
Well, the thing is, I didn't, I kind of had, I'd say probably when I started, I had like 4 rough ideas in my head. They were literally just in my head, banging away. I would, just like basically grab the guitar or a bass and put like a rough down, and it was just my drummer and I and then our engineer. So I'm sort of playing bass and guitar. I would just make like, okay, that arrangement feels pretty good. Let's work from that, and I might make some changes later, like chop that bit. Okay, that's too long, or this bit needs to be longer. But basically, just get a vibe going, so then we could like. Sooner I could get the bass on, that was pretty much the MO. Was like, okay, let's put a shitty guitar and vocal down, mumble some words. I've got a melody, got this, got that, got 2 parts, okay. Get in there, bang some drums, I'm going to pick up the bass, and that's when it would start to kind of like sound like something, and then we'd really like wrangle the skeletal system of the groove, that's always the most important thing, but just finding that pocket, finding where it wants to live, tempo-wise and stuff. It was, that proved to be a pretty good process to sketch and then start banging away, start laying bricks, basically. Laying bricks within, an hour of like kind of, being the song being kind of born, I guess. Once you start sort of rolling and you've got like studio time booked and got people coming, like, okay, 3 to 4 days, it's like, I felt like it was a bit like a school teacher. Each night I would sort of go, okay, I need something for tomorrow, okay. And then listen to that idea that I put down like, 2 months ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever, 2 days ago. And I'll go, okay, there sounds like something there. All right, I'll stretch that out, elaborate on that. Okay, tomorrow morning I'll have 2 or 3 of these ideas that I can present to the class. I was just basically making it up each day, and that became the norm, instead of like being all prepared, okay, here's 16 songs, we're going to record these, they're all sort of finished demos, and we've got, full sets of lyrics and there's the shitty versions, and now we're going to make good versions, that's all very kind of calculated. Yeah. So it became like a construction pit, and I think, when you've got the experience that, I have, and my drummer and an engineer too, like we've all made a lot of records between us. I've heard stories of people writing and making albums in the studio, and you think, that sounds exciting. I always wanted to try it, and, it's something that I'll definitely do more of, because it just feels, it's exciting. You're like, 1 minute there's nothing, the next minute you're like listening to a song come out of the speakers, and then it becomes like, okay, what does this song want? What does it want to say? What is it, you have to kind of, it's like a puzzle. Once you let things come in, it's your responsibility, I guess. You feel this sort of responsibility, but excitement at the same time of like, okay, I have to make this thing, like, it has to be valid, it has to have a reason to be here.